How's it going, everyone? Welcome back to another episode of the Shawn and Matt Show. My name is Matt, that is Shawn, and welcome to our show. Shawn, in today's episode, we are going to be talking about a new California law because, of course, it's in California.
Of course.
For a 25% tax on home flippers. And if that gets passed, the ramifications of that. We're also going to be talking about a buyer in Dallas who was offered $50,000 by another buyer to get out of the contract.
Hey,
I
think that's pretty darn smart.
Maybe it'll be a good business plan to go under contract on houses and then reach out to those agents that didn't get the house and then kind of like wholesale or wholetail the contract to the other buyer. And then we're also going to be talking about the top 7 tech trends in the real estate industry. It's not necessarily going to be like trends in the house, but more like trends in the actual real estate industry and the real estate process, Shawn. So let's start off with our first topic. This comes to us from California, and it is all about a new rule. Basically, what this comes down to is California has a housing crisis. And I know the United States has a housing and affordability crisis, but California, San Diego, big cities, San Francisco have incredible housing crises. And to combat the affordability, a lawmaker introduced a bill that would tax sellers of houses if they sold the property within 3 years after purchasing it, with the intention that this would go after investors, would go after house flippers who would buy a property for a quote-unquote lower price and then immediately sell that property, very, very quickly, and then there'd be the 25% tax on top of that, and hopefully that would deter these investors or, gain more revenue so that tax could be used towards, maybe affordability programs or affordable housing, grants that the county or the city would give. Shawn, what are your thoughts on a 25% tax on home flippers? I see you're giggling already, so I know you got some takes on it.
All right. One guy came up with this bill, right? I mean, you can tell that he has never flipped a house before, probably never worked in his life, and he's just coming up with these ideas.
Well, he represents his district. He's trying to make homes more affordable for the everyday folk. I'm sure he's worked.
Is that actually going to work? Absolutely not. Here's the thing: what are house flippers doing? Are they just buying and then reselling it, or are they redoing the whole house to make it a nicer house? What does that do? It improves property value. It improves everything around there. Do you want your areas to be improved, or do you want them to be dilapidated? That's what flippers are doing. So if you put a tax on them, then you're going to have squalor. You're going to have all of these homes that need work, and you can sell them to whoever, and they can put their own sweat equity into it. But I mean, when you flip a property like that, you're already paying a huge amount of tax, right? You're paying income tax on that money because it's not like you have any tax advantages by flipping a property. It's income. You're going to be taxed at whatever your tax rate is, which is 28%, 30%, whatever it is federally already. So to impose a 25% tax on top of that is completely ridiculous, dude. And if you want to squash everything else like California seems to be doing, and you watch the exodus of people, then keep doing that. The reason property values are so high is because of Silicon Valley. They have very rich companies that spend a ton on the people to make really good salaries, and therefore are pushing the prices of everything in California. Not only that, there's beautiful beaches and everything else. So maybe people should think that, hey, California isn't the place for me because it's very expensive. Let's move to somewhere else, or a different section of California. Not everybody has to live in San Diego. Not everybody has to live in LA. And if you squash a whole business aspect of real estate, then you're not doing any good for your state, in my opinion.
So the law comes to us. It's not a law yet. It was proposed by Chris Ward, 78th District out of San Diego, who says we've seen this influx of short-term investors trying to get into the market and outbid San Diegoans and Californians with all cash offers, which drives the price up for everyone. So,
well, yeah, I mean, I can
there.
see that. All right, if they're actually doing that, but is that true? Is that reality? How many of those properties were actually bought by house flippers? Now, Zillow was the one that was overpaying for properties, so maybe why don't you tax Zillow? But truthfully, how many are competing against house flippers? And how is there any cash left to then flip it around? And I don't think that theory makes sense. I want to know how many of the homes that are sold, right? Say there's 100 homes. What's the percentage that are sold to home flippers, And is this reality, right? What it is it's crazy market throughout the United States. It's a lack of supply. And there's nothing we can do about that unless you start building new properties. So go anywhere right now. Come here. There's people, we're strategizing right now on how we're going to get our buyers in. We're not competing against flippers. We're competing against 12, 15 other purchasers that are pulling all the stops out to try to get that property. It's not home flippers for the most part. I wouldn't blame it on that.
So you said, what are the percentages? Chris Ward's research says that U.S. investors bought a record $63.6 billion worth of homes by late 2021. I don't know what percent of the pie 63 billion is.
Well, we've talked about this before, and you can't. We need to know units compared to units, right? So they might be buying the super expensive properties. When we were looking at before, we were doing numbers on how many houses were bought by iBuyers, and that's basically what this is, right? So it was such a low percentage. It was like, I don't know, 1% to 4% of the market or something like that. It was low.
Yeah. I don't want to speculate on numbers that we don't have in front of us, but a few things strike me about this. First, he's trying, right? He lives in an area, San Diego, that is, I don't want to say unaffordable, but it's a premium market. There is fantastic real estate, and if you are a first-time home buyer in San Diego, you are in for a painful ride, maybe so to speak, because it's extremely challenging to purchase a home in San Diego with where the market is right now. So he's putting in an effort, but what he's also doing is he's going after the low-hanging fruit, right? Yeah. It's like, okay, well, housing affordability, it's really hard to buy a house. Things are too expensive. Let's get the home flippers. Let's get these house flippers. And what he's saying is if these house flippers don't buy these dilapidated properties, as you said, then that would open up the gates for a quote-unquote normal buyer to buy that. Well, a lot of buyers, maybe the appraisal wouldn't go through on some of these properties. If it's a VA loan, can you imagine a house with no railings, God forbid, and mold in the basement, if there are basements in San Diego? But you get the picture. It's the low-hanging fruit. So I don't necessarily think that house flippers are driving the market. I think the market is driving the market, and the only reason there are house flippers is because there's an opportunity for baby boomers to sell quickly without having to, put in a lot of effort. And maybe it's baby boomers, maybe it's whoever owns the property. And there's always going to be a solution out there for someone that wants to sell quickly. And there's always going to be an investor out there that wants to put the capital down and has the capital available to provide a turnkey property for the market. Now, if these homes aren't selling, guess what? Home flippers are going to stop flipping. But I think, from a theoretical 10,000, bird's eye view, the notion that of house flippers are the problem, I think is off base.
Yeah, and you're going after something that is a positive to the market. It's giving you value into the market. Why don't you, instead of doing that, take all the tax money that you're making and give grants to people, or maybe allow them to write cash offers that secures them a way to purchase a home. Instead of taking an aspect away from the market, add to the market in some way, give these people an opportunity, because that's really what's hurting them. There's no opportunity because a lot of people are waiving every contingency. And truthfully, there's a lot of people that are scared to do that or don't have the means to do that. So in my opinion, give them opportunity. Don't take it away from them.
In our market, we've even seen with that Virginia Square condo at Lexington Square, another agent had it, and then it didn't sell, and then you listed it, prettied it up, and there were buyers that had seen it before that came back, and they were like, "Oh wow, I'm now interested. Like I really like what you guys." And that was like an upscale, modern condo that not much was done. And if a buyer's mind can change on that, I mean, just think about where their head is at if they walk in and like no water's working and like the floorboard is missing from a house. Like they're not gonna want to like. Home buyers don't want to renovate entire houses. That's just not how it works.
How are they going to get the means to do this? Once they purchase the house, and it's an expensive house anyways, you have to have the cash to be able to do this, or a type of loan that is going to afford them to then put in $40, $50, $60, $80, $100,000 into the property. So there are those loans out there, but you can't compete in this market right now because the whole world is in the same market of low supply. Like I said, offer buyers something. Don't take it away from the competition.
So San Diego, one of my favorite cities in the entire United States. Love visiting. Got a lot of friends there. And if you walk through PB, if you walk through OB, if you walk through North Park and some of these cool neighborhoods, you will see signs in the yard that say like short-term rentals, like do not belong here. Like this is a neighborhood. Let's keep it a neighborhood, because you can make a lot of money with short-term rentals. And I like that Chris Ward, the assembly member, is trying. I don't think you should get a participation award if you suggest something and it's not a great idea. But the whole notion that a short-term investor is going to buy a property, renovate it, and then sell it after 3 years is just backwards. Like if you want to tax a flipper, have it within like a 2-year period, because there are move-up buyers that are buying townhouses, that are buying homes, having their first and their second kid, and by the time that 3rd year rolls around, it's time to move out. And I don't think the appreciation that they've gained by owning real estate, I don't think that a normal buyer should be hit with, a tax like this.
Yeah, it's tough. I think what's his name? Chris Ward?
Yeah.
Chris Ward should be taxed for the stupid idea. I think any lawmaker that comes up with a stupid idea should be taxed or have to pay into a fund because they wasted taxpayer dollar going over this. I hope your bill fails. Thank you.
Well,
sorry, that's my opinion.
I
feel sorry for the lower buyers, right? The buyers that are trying to get in. But you know what? It is what it is. It's hard right now. And maybe you should just hold off until the market falls, because it's going to. I guarantee you the market's going to turn at some point and buyers are going to be able to get in again.
Way to put a bow on that. I won't touch that one. All right, let's move on to our next topic. This comes to us from Dallas, Texas, WFAA.com. How crazy is the Dallas real estate market right now? A buyer was just offered $50K, 50 stacks, to walk away from a home they just secured. By the way, Shawn, I lost my voice over the weekend at our client appreciation party.
You were partying, man.
It's just starting to come back. We had like the live musician here, so I was like yelling into people like, how are you doing? And I went to the dermatologist yesterday to get like the back of my head checked out, and my acne medicine hadn't like come in like 2 weeks, and so I went to the dermatologist and like I could barely talk. Like my face was like breaking out. I like had a mask on. Yeah, I was like, listen, I feel like a spring chicken, but you're gonna look at me and think that I'm dying. But dude, I've been cooking dinner, like turning on the oven.
Wow, you do that.
I am
millennial.
I am
cooking
a
dinner.
brand new. I'm cooking dinner. I've got this killer baked chicken recipe with white rice. Now it's baked chicken and white rice. I'm not, Gordon Ramsay up in this condo, but you would be floored by the difference between eating Five Guys and eating baked chicken, and your energy levels in the morning and how you feel. It's just absolutely incredible. I feel great, but if you notice like a little something in my throat, it's
you got bar voice.
I got bar voice. That's a good way of putting it. So Shawn, a buyer was just offered $50K to walk away from a house they just secured. Realtor Todd Tremonti has got some pretty cool stories in this article. Basically, what happened was his buyer went under contract on a property, and lo and behold, another buyer came along and said, listen, give you $50K to just, transfer this contract, walk away, and I'll take over. And in the market that we're in right now, that's a crazy story, but not out of the realm of possibilities when we're seeing some of these escalations. My clients just wrote on a property last week, 26 offers, listed for $695. Highest offer went up to $835. So about $140, maybe call it $145, possibly $1,000. So if someone is being offered $50,000 to walk away, that could help you like pay for the next like the higher house. Shawn, what are your thoughts on $50K to walk away?
$50K to walk away. I like it. I mean, hey, use whatever strategy you can to get into these places. And we now know how much these properties are going. What I'll tell you, guys, don't have buyer's remorse and find out, oh man, I lost it by X. These properties are going crazy right now. And I'm not saying, hey, it's going to appraise, but people are doing crazy things, and you can see it right here. $50,000 to walk away. Now, one thing that came to mind whenever you were talking about this is buyer A secures the property. They're under contract. In our contract, it states you cannot assign this contract unless everybody agrees in writing, right? So that would be an assignment of contract there. So you would have to get the seller's approval to actually assign it to the other buyer. And
just say my friend.
Could that go, right?
My new friend.
That's in this. So Texas might be totally different in that regard. But then the seller's going to be like, wait a second. What are you making on this, right? So they might want to deal. So it's not as easy as you would think once you're on a ratified contract. But, it could be an easy way to make some cash or a good way to secure a home after it goes under contract.
Well, let me ask you this, Shawn. You know where I'm going with this? Well, you recently purchased a house.
I did.
What if I wanted that same house? And what if you went under contract? I heard about it. And then I came knocking on your door and was like, listen, if you back out of this deal, I'll give you $50,000 if you give me the contract. What are you doing?
I would not, personally.
You wouldn't?
It'd have to be a lot higher because I think it's a percentage of the actual value of the house, right? So, once I'm in, I'm like, I'm in, man. I'm done because my value is probably going to go up $50,000 and pretty quickly, right? So me personally, in that regard, I'm not going to. But what if I was on the fence about the house, and you're like, I don't know.
Yeah.
But people are in this race and they're fatigued, they're tired. So once they're in, they're just like, I don't care I don't care what you offer me, I'm not moving.
Yeah, because theoretically, I mean, if you're offering the money, you're interested in the house, you've probably seen the house. Maybe you submitted an offer, maybe you included an escalation clause, so you would have essentially already been outbid, and then you would go above your max to pay. So, I think
write the smarter contract in the beginning.
In this scenario, maybe the buyer was like, "Oh wait, something came under contract. Let me just offer this buyer $50K." And this comes to us from an agent, Realtor Todd Tremonti, quote unquote, from the article, made a splash when he revealed last year that he was offering cruise trips to sellers to get them to choose his client's offers. Shawn, this buyer's agent, imagine a multiple offer scenario, offer 1, 2, and 3, but offer number 3, it may not be the highest, but it's got a cruise attached to it. Now, 2 questions.
Yeah.
First of all, is this ethical?
Probably not.
Second of all, why aren't we doing this with every single offer that we write?
Truthfully, I mean, it's coercion, right? I mean, it's I don't know. I don't know if that's
but
legal.
We've seen contracts where the buyer agent says, I will reduce my commission by X amount up to
it's
this
a gift,
price.
Right? You're gifting something to somebody to win a contract. I mean, I think at some point the real estate board will probably, push it aside and let it not happen. But right now, we're doing whatever we can. I was thinking, if you own a beach house, say, hey, you can stay at my beach house for a week, in the summer, whenever you go. Huge benefit, right? It's a couple $1,000. If those things are close, You never know. You never know. We've seen where in a different market where people are like giving away cars. Hey, you can have the car with the house, you know? So now it's the opposite side. So now I'll give you a car if you let me buy your house. Whatever it is, these things are happening. Well, that's an idea. Like, hey, I'll lease a car for you. Well, maybe not. But yeah, I mean, this is the craziness of the market, and that's where this goes back to the first article that we were talking about. It's like you can't control the market, and by pulling out a segment of the market, it's just no good.
The Todd Tremonti said that the buyer ended up turning down the offer. Some complexity, some legality, some ethical issues, but it was a real story and it happened.
It's crazy. Crazy times, my friend.
All right, let's move on to our third and final topic. This comes to us from Bankrate.com. 7 top tech trends in real estate. It shows a guy in a man bun, what appears to be a Mac, and a dog. Isn't that the most millennial photo
It's totally
you've ever seen? Homie with the man bun. Maybe I'm just jealous, though. All right, number 1 is desktop appraisals, Shawn. So recently went under contract with some very close friends of mine. We bid above. There's some comps around. We went under contract, and the lender just called and said, hey, we've got the appraisal. We've got it waived, and you're ready to go.
Yeah, it happens a lot now. And what they're looking at is qualification, credit scores, making sure it's buyer. It's based on the buyer and the property. They're going to look at the appraised, the buyer's credit scores. How much you're putting down is important. It has to be at least 15%.
Do people know
20%.
what desktop appraisals are?
So this is just an appraisal that they're not having to go to the property to actually look into the property, take the measurements,
punch it into the system.
Punch it into the system, and they say, well, you know what? We don't need one. This happened to me last week as well. There's a couple things that it relies on, and those are the buyer's qualifications, how much you're putting down, and the property itself. This is a big advantage in a lot of ways in some markets where I'll tell my buyers, hey, let's see if we can get an appraisal waiver just to see, at our top end, and that might allow you to waive the appraisal completely.
Are there any downsides of the appraisal waiver or the desktop appraisal?
Yeah, because you don't know the true value of your property. So the bank doesn't know, but in one sense, they don't care because you're putting $300,000-$400,000 down. So you're taking the risk.
Should you care about the value? Because
me personally,
the value is what you're paying for it. So
so
you're telling me that some random bank appraiser knows more about the market than you do?
Yeah, and that's the thing is that's why, we've talked about appraisals before, and we're like, well, why should a bank say what it's worth when there's 5 buyers that are saying what it's worth, So that's the reality of it. But it's what you can sell it for, and that's why the bank has a stake in it, right?
Right. All right. So number 2, online 3D tours. Don't really need to go into this one.
If you're not doing them, you're crazy.
Pretty straightforward. The 3D tour is clutch. I hope that these are becoming mandatory. In this building, there is still an agent that publishes the listing with no photos and then adds the photos 1 or 2 days later. Ooh. So there's still agents out there that are not doing 3D tours and not, doing best by their clients. But obviously 3D tours, very important. Number 3, iBuyers. Clearly we've seen a pullback in this. iBuyers big in 20 and 21. And that IPO money was flush in 20 and 2021.
That's right. They were buying everything.
That investor, that Series A and Series B, C, that money's flush. And now they're pulling back a little bit. We don't have a large open door marketplace in our area because of sales prices. We don't have a large knock presence. We do have Redfin now. You'll see them scattered around. But I think everyone is up to date on iBuyers, and there is a possibility that you can sell to iBuyers, although most of them are tightening up just ever so slightly.
Yeah, after the whole Zillow fiasco in the iBuying field, everybody pulled back a little bit. I'm not actually seeing any competition on iBuyers.
What do you mean any competition?
All right, of the 16 contracts I got on that one the other week, there was no investor. There was not one investor. How about yours?
Right. No. I think the scenario, I don't think I don't think buyers, quote unquote buyer, are placing offers.
They're buying.
I more so think it's like sellers reaching out to Redfin and like reaching out to.
I guess you're right on that.
Open Door and whatnot. All right, so number 4 is remote online notarization. Shawn, this might be my favorite new thing that has hit the real estate industry. Essentially, it is what it sounds like. You can sign via notarize.com if you're a seller. I believe if you're a buyer, you may still have to go in person. Shawn, one of my biggest regrets on Robarge Court, the listing that just closed for like $200,000 over list price. I put in, preferred title companies. Everyone gets their, everyone's up in arms about, preferred title companies. So I put in 3. And I was like, here are my 3 preferred title companies. And the winning contract ended up using some other title company. And I was like, I'm not really going to fight them on it. This is a good brokerage. It's a good agent. It should be fine. Title company doesn't do remote closings. My sellers, they had sold their car. They took an Uber to closing.
Oh, my gosh.
And we closed essentially at the same time. Like, we're in the lobby and the buyers are signing.
Weird.
And I'm like, this is such a headache. And I know it's almost like first world problems. It's like, wow, your seller had to sign a paper in person. But when there are easier options available and they can sign in their underwear from their bedroom with the click of a button, that is an absolute lifesaver and a must-have for every single seller closing out there.
Yeah, I just signed one this week on notarize.com, and it was awesome. My clients were at their rental property, sitting there. They could be sitting there in anything. We see each other just like a Zoom call. It takes them about 10 minutes to ramp up on notarize.com, so they have to verify who they are before the process starts. But man, it's so much easier. You're not having to meet face to face. And back in the day, everybody would be in the same room at the same time. It was awful. Now we don't even have to see anybody, which is kind of cool. This is like, still faxing your offer. We want this trend to happen and become easier for people, because if you can verify who you are by a couple clicks, let's do it.
Yeah, it's like, do you remember when you used to have to drive to the client's house to get the contract signed?
Yes.
I think we're going to be saying, do you remember when you had to drive to the title company to sign the papers? Yeah. All right, number 5, online document preparation and e-signing. So think mortgage application, think financial documents. You can go ahead and e-sign most of those on the lender side, so you don't have to print them out, fax them.
And the buy that we did this week also, the buyer signed the bulk of the documents via online. They still had to come into person and sign a few documents, but closing was like 25 minutes compared to an hour of sitting there. So it was great.
Number 6, home inspection helpers. So Shawn, we use a company that the home inspectors, they go around with their cell phone, they take photos, they take notes. We have the home inspection about 10 minutes or maybe an hour after the inspection in a PDF format. And not only does it list, it's like a 20 or 40 or 50 page PDF. Not only that, but there's also like a repair addendum to it where it lists out each item and like an estimate. It'll give like a range, like, something is wrong with the sink. Estimated repair is like $253 to like $483. So it's really helpful. I mean, back in like 2014, 2015, I remember we had a home inspector who just had like a clipboard and it was like doing check marks. And I'm like, what am I going to do with all this loose leaf paper?
Dude, this is exactly, and I feel bad. I don't use that home inspector anymore because of this. And if you don't move to the next trend, you're going to be forgotten and you're going to lose business. And it's just like real estate agents. If they don't move to the next stage of business for real estate agents, you're going to lose. So that's exactly it. They used to just check mark. And I'm like, wait a second, this is not a real like home inspection report. There's no pictures. The pictures would come in a different file and everything else. I'm like, man, we need something streamlined and easy. And now this is what we use. And we get that report right away. The guy is using his phone, taking pictures with it and putting it into the report as they go. You have that report right away. It's so much easier. If you can make an agent's life easier, you're going to get the business.
Number 7, digital escrow and closing. So this plays off of online notarization earlier. Digital escrow and closing.
I mean, you can now scan your check into these directly to the escrow holder, which is great. You don't have to run and say, hey, Matt, can you come pick up my check? I got to get it there today. You can just scan it in, much easier.
Those are the top tech trends in real estate from bankrate.com. And Shawn, that'll just wrap up today's episode. Thank you so much for watching. If you made it this far, be sure to hit the thumbs up button, subscribe. If you haven't already, I'm going to go ice my esophagus or something or get a lozenge, but I made it this far. I feel great. Got to go show some houses in the pouring rain, but that's the love. That's the job, brother.
That's right.
All right. Well, until next time, we'll see you then.
Take care.